all. My name is Lexi Spino, and I am a poet. And the art scene in York specifically has been such a huge inspiration and support system. Like, I don't think I've met in my travels for other shows like a community that is anything like what I've seen here. And my best friends have come from that, you know what I mean, like scene. So the beginning was rough because it's hard. Michael was talking about the courage, you know what I mean, to get up and just like bare your soul like that. And at first that was really hard. It took me a couple years to actually find what my voice was, what I wanted my voice to be, and where my stance was. And once I figured that out, it became easier. And that was kind of like the rush part that Michael was talking about. I thought that was a great way to explain it, because there is a rush in performing, even if it's scary, you know, even if you're talking about something really personal and like you're nervous and you're like shaking, but there's like, you know, that adrenaline side of it and everything. And like my best friends became musicians, and I've ended up doing collaborations and doing things that I never thought I would do. Like, I recorded an EP that's on Spotify, and like that blows my mind. But once I found my voice, then like that's how everything kind of started as far as being an advocate for mental illness awareness, suicidal tendencies, toxic relationships, like all of that kind of as a whole. And that's pretty much what any show that like I've put together, you know, has to do with that in some way. And I think one of my favorite experiences was I was the opener for a house punk show in Philadelphia. And I just went all out, because what else do you do at a house punk show? And I told these guys that I had never met in my life, like everything about me. I told them about my like diagnosis, like borderline personality disorder. I like got a beer in my hand, my notebook in like the other, and after my set, this guy walked up to me, and I was sitting down at a table talking to the people who were running the show, and he came up to me and he sat down. He's like, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he was like, "I actually 5 months ago just got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder." And he was like, "And it's been a really scary ride for me." And I had a half-hour long conversation with this guy, and it's those moments that I live. I got diagnosed with pretty much everything under the sun before they figured this out. And I was put on so many different medications, you know, and that's the hardest part about starting your journey, and actually wanting to get stable, wanting to know how to manage these things, wanting to even just know what's going on, because half the time when this stuff starts, you don't even know what's happening. And as far as support and other people understanding, over the past couple of years, it's gotten a lot better. I've been actually there's meme pages, you know, about borderline, specifically BPD. I'm seeing more people talk about it, you know, and stuff, and that's really cool. That's one of the things that my generation, I think, did really well, was making stuff like that, you know what I mean? Being able to have it out in the open. I hate technology for the most part, but there have been some good things that have come from it, especially as far as mental illness awareness, because people aren't afraid now to just put it out there and talk about it. Once I got the diagnosis, everything was easily accessible. And the biggest thing, to me personally, the biggest thing about BPD is that it is nurture, not nature. It is not a chemically issue in the brain. It actually comes from your upbringing, what you were around as you grew up. So a lot of people who have severe PTSD can end up getting BPD, which is why I think it's also harder to diagnose and figure out, because it's also very close to bipolar, and there's the different levels of bipolar and everything. So it's kind of you know, that's what makes it hard to diagnose. But once you have it diagnosed, you know, then it gets a lot easier. I think the biggest misconception about BPD is that like it's a personality disorder, so people think that it's like schizophrenia or DID, and they think that you turn into somebody else completely, and that's not the case. The closest thing with it is that we get so wrapped up and attached to someone that we lose our concept of ourselves. Our being is for them. Our existence is for them. Like, we don't live, like if they're out of the picture. And that can alter your personality, and then like you feel like it, you pick up their traits, you start acting a little bit like them, but that's as close as like it can get. But yeah, I mean, it's taken me a total of 6 years to get to like an actual like full understanding of like all the things. Like with BPD, with the other stuff that I have severe anxiety and PTSD, and that added, like all of it together, just it's been a really, really long couple of like past years, like long recovery. I went through a lot, and I actually don't think I would have started that road if it wasn't for the art scene, if it wasn't for me finding those people, you know what I mean? Being able to talk about it, deciding that was going to be my work. And I was like, if I'm going to be the voice for this, then don't I have to be an example? So I should probably, figure this out so that I can help other people figure it out. And the book that I published last year, The Electric Complex, is actually, it's the entire story of my recovery from the very beginning when I moved back to York till like 2 years ago. And it's definitely heavy. I definitely put, like, it's blunt. There's a lot of poems in here that are heavy hitting. There's a lot of poems that are lighthearted. There's a poem in here that in the parentheses, it's like, I tried to be Hemingway once. You know what I mean? Like, I try to break it up as much as I can while also like being blunt about things. But this is probably my biggest accomplishment as far as anything that I feel like I've done personally. Just because, like, just to see an actual story of my life, like, in a book, it's crazy sometimes. But this one is called Corruption of the Mind, and it's basically about how things can get so warped over time when you keep allowing yourself to go through the same cycle over and over again. And this is very, very much inspired by the way Bukowski writes. Corruption of the mind begins in the feet, travels through the roof of the mouth, and ends in the navel, seeping through the area that was our connection to life from the beginning. Corruption of the mind stares through dishwashers and dog parks and Dollar Generals and that sketchy dive bar on the corner of Philly and Pershing. Corruption of the mind tastes like sawdust mixed with Sunny D. It feels like peanut butter left soaking in the sink, looks like Hitler dressed up as Einstein for Halloween. Sounds like a submarine sinking. Smells like winter the day after Christmas. Corruption of the mind is the most subtle occurrence a human will endure in their lifetime. It's the one thing that can never be pinpointed, but at the core of almost all studies. This song is, this one's a bit heavier, and I mean, I know that this whole thing is about mental, illness and awareness and all the stuff that goes with it, but I also know that some things can be a little bit too much for some people, so this is kind of like my little trigger warning for that. But a few years ago, my best friend's best friend committed suicide. And I didn't know him for that long, but it was right after my best friend was living with the person. And I felt like I felt this weird connection, and then I went through this process of like, I don't have a right to feel this deeply about it though, because I only knew them for a few months. And then I was like, well, that's stupid. Like, you know, like this, it was this weird thing in my head. But I wrote this about that. This is on Dan for apartments 666 and 668. Bleached out countertops, stains of hair dye never quite washed away, awkward strands of hair lining shower walls. Exit here slowly and take a final look. You will leave things here, solid things, actual pieces of you left behind with the memories. Bleached out brain top, stains of rusted safes never clean, finally moved, awkward strands of hair lining shower cheeks. Exit here slowly. This one is just a form of a panic attack. There's so many different types of anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and I have a lot of poems throughout this book that just describe like all the different kinds that you can have. And this one doesn't have a title. Have you ever watched your own heartbeat and felt alien? Standing in the shower, staring at a body that is wrong, though has been made home to so many who have stuffed themselves into your mouth effortlessly, tastelessly. Yet you find no comfort here, no recognizable residence, the curves, the freckles, the stretch marks, the jutting, tormented rib cage, the heartbeat, alien. And you have both hands placed on the wall, drive heaving with golden dots at the edge of your view, you slide poetically down to the drain. You realize you are a movie, not your life, you yourself. A non-rated indie art festival experiment placed online and in dark hidden theaters. The water isn't hot enough. The water is never hot enough. And the tears aren't freezing correctly. And this is another one that's like that. It's actually just titled Panic Attack. With touches like static and gray dreams, where teeth take away each breath with a tighter pinch each second till blood flows down the body from the neck like a spring shower cleansing and warming in a tainted comic book moonlight. With touches like static, her hair stands at attention, slowly pulling her farther away from reality. All of those were kind of the more melodramatic ones, so I'll do one that's actually based off of mania.
That's what?
Based off of mania. This is one of my favorite ones to actually perform because I get to just kind of slowly go crazy, like throughout it. It's called Schizoidea. Oh, I am allowed to cuss, right? I don't want to. Okay. I got antsy one day and took the signs down. I suppose you saw that as an easy in. Although I couldn't get you for loitering technically, I still kept tabs on you as you wandered through my mind palace, getting your fingertips all over old case files and spell books. Watched you get pissed off at all the doors your lockpicking kit wasn't good enough for. Saw you slowly get more and more irritated each day you woke up and the layout had rearranged overnight. You found my library boring and spent too much time in the movie room. After a while, I suppose you realized you were no real threat, just more so an annoyance whose skills came handy from time to time. Abuse isn't always a mark on the neck. Sometimes it's a word placed in your left ear that within an hour causes the right one to start bleeding. I guess that's why I spent last New Year's indoors puking, not from a hangover, but a concussion, and you spent it wondering what exact moment it was that caused the power outage that left you without memories. You were throwing thesauruses around my head just for fun. I wasn't prepared for the damage vocabulary could bring upon a mental frame. You weren't prepared for the emotions I could dig up from your graves. Fuck, we are just too damn clever for our own good. Next time, don't bring sausage to a fist fight. Stopping to eat in the middle only caused the situation to allow both of us out alive. And we always promised each other in this that one would never make it. How anticlimactic that morning when I finally decided you were of no more use to me, kicked you out, leaving you within the destruction of it all before you even came to. I'm not really sorry I didn't clean up after myself. I just didn't feel like going to the third floor where you left the broom.